Hi, Sally.
Hey, Tyler.
How's it going?
It's going very well. How are you?
I'm so excited to record this podcast today. Oh, boy.
Are you sweating because you're so excited?
I am. I'm already sweating.
I am too, and not just because I'm recording in a tiny closet.
Oh, boy.
All right. What's the best thing that's happened to you this week, my girl?
Oh, boy. Oh, I'm not prepared.
I know. I never am either, even though I always know it's coming.
Oh, God. Okay, well, the best thing that happened to me so far this week, it's only Monday, so I don't have much to... I don't have much to go off. Oh, I know. So I was telling my boyfriend yesterday, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy the microphone that Sally has to do our podcast recording. Mm-hmm. And so I can be all official and we can have really good audio quality because we really care about that. And he was like, oh, you didn't already buy it? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, I was going to buy it for you, but I thought that you had already bought it.
Aww.
But I would like to buy it for you. And then I just thought that was so nice.
I love that.
I know. I almost
sweet.
Cried.
I love how connected he is to the success of our podcast.
I know. When he was helping us do the sound check the other day, I think he was like feeling bad for how frustrated I was.
Oh, guys, the things that go into a podcast.
Oh, boy. All right, Sally, what's the best thing that happened to you this week?
Let's see. What have I done so far? I made myself coffee this morning, and I haven't done that in a while. So for people who don't know, nobody knows this.
For everyone out there listening.
So two of the ways that I feel connected to spirit each morning is making the bed and making myself coffee. And I have found over the last several weeks that I've then only either opted to do one or the other, but it's been a long time since I've done both. And this morning I made it a point to do both, and it felt really, really good. And then I felt like I was already starting the day a winner because I did both of the things, which, mental note for me to do all the time.
Yeah, and if I had to choose between making the bed or making coffee, I think my bed would never get made.
I think that making the bed for me, I just really love making the bed, which is hilarious because I had never made my bed growing up. I thought it was awful because my mother would make us do it. I'm the same because I recently have, it's become very important to me to make my bed, and I also never made my bed growing up. So maybe that's just one of those adult things. Yeah, and then eventually you just allow yourself to realize that you really love it.
It's true.
That's how that goes. Right, that's life.
Anyway.
So that's what we've been doing this week.
It's only Monday, y'all. Oh, boy.
But so now we're going to flash back to a year ago today. Tyler, tell us about our guest. We've got a guest today, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited about our guest today. Her name is Meredith McElroy, and she and I know each other because we are in a mastermind together called Angels of Intuition. And in this group, we've all formed some really close bonds, and these women have really been encouraging me and supporting me as I step into the things I want to create in the world, like this podcast. And so I'm so excited that Meredith is going to be on to talk to us today. Let's bring her in. Hi, Meredith.
Hello, Tyla. Hey, Sally.
Hello. I'm so
Y'all
excited.
Are so funny. I've been giggling through y'all's entire little conversation.
Not good. Oh, boy.
I love it.
So, Meredith, I didn't say what happened a year ago today in life because I figured I would let you tell our listeners what happened a year ago today.
That sounds like a plan. So a year ago today, exactly, I graduated from pharmacy school. So I went through 4 years of very intense education, and exactly a year ago today I graduated. And it was just the most interesting day, let me tell you. Man, oh man.
Tell us.
Yeah, tell us all about the interesting nature of the day.
So I feel like I have to rewind just a little bit so that you get why it's interesting to me. It may not be interesting at all, in which case this is going to be quite the podcast for y'all. Maybe not so
I
successful.
bet it's going to be great. But actually, before you rewind,
Okay.
Before we get into the story, I would love for you to take a moment and really go back to a year ago today and feel into how you were feeling and tell us in one word how you were feeling before you even share with us the story.
Ashamed.
Wow, that's a big word.
Yeah, really big word, especially for a day that should have been so great, like such a celebration. And I was feeling so
Meredith,
ashamed. Yeah.
I'm already going to cry, and we're like 2 minutes in.
There will inevitably be tears.
Oh, we've cried on every podcast, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Or I have.
I'm very teary these days, so I'll probably be crying as well.
Well, go ahead now and take us back to a year ago today and tell us a little bit why you were feeling the way you were feeling.
So about 2 years into pharmacy school is actually 4 years long. And so 2 years in, I had gotten pretty tapped into my intuition for the first time in my life. And as you know, once you kind of tap into that intuition, sometimes it can just rock your world. I don't know if y'all had those experiences on those first months. Maybe still. I'm still getting my world rocked. I don't know.
Just over and over and over.
Exactly. It's just a repetitive process. You get to the next level and your world is rocked again. But that first time that I tapped into my intuition, my world was just totally rocked because I realized that I did not want to practice pharmacy. It was a profession that I highly respected. I had so many, friends and colleagues and teachers that were just incredible people doing incredible work, but I knew deep inside that it wasn't my path. And that was so hard for me to realize, that was just, well, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to quit? Am I supposed to just keep plugging on? It was just my world was rocked, like I've already said.
Yeah, and you were halfway through school at that point, right?
Yeah, halfway through, yeah. So it was still another 2 years, which is a long time, but it seemed like a very difficult thing to do, to just quit, to just drop out and not actually follow through. So it was just a difficult time, but eventually, as I did more processing, as I did more growing, I realized that I really did want to quit. And I actually resolved, I'm going to quit. This is going to be a decision that I make. And then I didn't. I just didn't. Oh. My ego got in the way. My fear got in the way. I was so scared of what I would do if I didn't, follow through. There was just too much fear around it. I resolved to quit, and then I just didn't. I didn't have the courage.
Did you talk to anybody about it?
Well, so I didn't have a coach or anything like that. And I think that was, now that I do have a coach, I think that would have been, oh my gosh, just the best thing. But at that point, I did not have a coach. I did talk to my parents about it. And my parents, of course, want what's best for me. And for them, what's best for me, or what was best for me, was to follow through, to have this as an option. It doesn't hurt to have the degree. I can always do something else after school. And so, it was, the people that mean the most to me are my parents, probably, and I cherish their opinion so much. And it was just so early in on my journey, I just didn't have the resolve to actually make a decision that big on my own. And so, I just didn't do it. And I don't know if in y'all's world of self-help and personal development, I don't know if it's the same way for y'all, but there's a huge emphasis on, quitting your job and jumping and allowing whatever to catch you and, taking the risk and going all in and take the leap. Exactly. And so there was this huge emphasis on that. And, I think that that's where that shame really stemmed from, is that I was reading and listening and just absorbing all of this information that was all about doing something exactly in the exact opposite way of what I was doing. I wasn't taking the risk, and so there was just this huge shame around that. on the final day, because it was like, I got there and it was this pinnacle of celebration for everybody around me. My family was so proud. And I was so proud for all of my friends, and all of, everybody that was going through that. But for me, just on the inside, it just felt like this huge symbol of my lack of courage.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you put on a face? Were you...
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if anybody knew that this is how you were feeling.
No. Well, not that I know of. I really put on a face. I really just put on a face, and I just celebrated with everybody else. And I tried to feel the excitement from everybody. I tried to feel that. But I don't think I actually did. I actually feel more excited today thinking back on it, like that was an awesome, awesome day. And so many people sacrificed so much time and energy. And, many of my friends had families, and so they sacrificed time with their families. And it was just an awesome day. And I can feel that excitement now. But then it was totally just a face. It was just putting on a show and joining in.
Well, and how did you feel about them being there for this, to celebrate this thing that you were not excited about? Like, did you have thoughts about that at all? Because now you can look, you're saying that now you look back and you're happy about that, but were you feeling like guilty at all about it at the time, or
totally
were you even not thinking about it? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. I had my family drive in 14 hours, and this includes my little sister who's in high school. And so, in high school, that an entire weekend is a big deal, and 14 hours in the car is an even bigger deal. So, yeah, they drove in, and I felt such guilt around that, because it seemed like the only way that they should, sacrifice, their time and energy and should be for something that I am excited about. And yeah, so there was huge guilt around that. Yeah.
How were you feeling even the night before? I keep feeling like asking you, like, what was going through your head the night before when you're like, oh my God, tomorrow's the day?
Probably more confused than anything else. Because there was this mixture, like, until the actual ceremony, I don't think that I really tapped into, like, what that emotion was. I was just going through it without much awareness. And so the night before, it was probably just a totally unconscious, like, going through the motions, going to dinner, going to the ceremony, going to, like, there was a hooding ceremony or whatever before. And yeah, so it was kind of just going through the motions. I think it was the lack of excitement that was probably the most confusing thing to me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like knowing how you're supposed to feel and not being able to feel that, and then not being able to understand why.
Yeah.
That's something I've definitely experienced before.
Exactly. Because I feel like that's something that probably everybody can relate to, especially with, like, the highlight reel that you see on social media every day. It's like you're surrounded by people that appear to be feeling this sense of peace or this sense of happiness or this sense of success and accomplishment. And it's like you can watch it and kind of be the observer and be like, well, I don't feel like this, like what's wrong with me? Like, what did I do? Like, what's wrong with me? That's probably the one thing that I kept repeating in my head, was just like, what is wrong with me?
Wow. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And so, well, let's fast forward a little bit, because you graduate, and then what happens? Then did you immediately decide that you were not going to pursue pharmacy work?
Yes, I did. I did decide not to pursue any sort of job in pharmacy. I actually had, like, a dream job offer before I graduated, and if I were to have practiced, this is what I would have wanted to do. It was working one-on-one with patients. As soon as the patient left the doctor's office, they would come to me and I would be counseling them one-on-one. I mean, it was the dream job, right? But luckily, you know, a year and a half after this one decision not to quit, I did have the resolve to say, you know what, this is not it, you know, and I don't know what exactly it is, but I know that this is not it. And so, yeah, I did make that decision to not practice. And a lot has really shifted since then, you know. I got married, 2015 was a big year. I got married actually before pharmacy school. And so I had just recently moved to Dallas and to be with my husband. And so, yeah, I was just with him, and I dabbled in looking for jobs, but knew deep down that that's not what I was going to end up doing.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. I mean, I just want to take a moment to really honor you for that decision, because just as it was so difficult to quit halfway through school, and you ended up not doing that, it was just as difficult, if not more difficult, I feel, to be like, all right, now I have this degree and I'm not going to pursue work in this field.
Yeah.
That's like a really brave thing.
Yeah. And I appreciate that acknowledgement for sure, because it was really, really hard, because I had this degree. I had the opportunity to, you know, make this amount of money, you know, like that was an opportunity that I could have taken. And instead I chose not to and rely on my husband to provide for me, which was a whole different like thing to be able to do. Like that took a lot of work, because I've always been the kind of person who wants to pay for my own things and who wants to, you know, be accomplished. Like I've always been the overachiever, the perfectionist, you know, the person who takes on the leadership roles. Like I've always been that person, the type A, you know, let's go out and get it done personality. And so to actually make the decision and then rest in my husband's support was very, very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine that would have also really had an impact on your relationship. That's a huge shift.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
How did he respond to that? How was he kind of reacting to that?
I feel like the luckiest girl in the world, really. I totally lucked out with my husband. He is chasing his dreams, like totally knows what it means to be aligned with like your intuition, be aligned with what you want to do in the world. And that's what he's doing. So he gets it. He gets it on a very deep level. You know, he doesn't see the point. Like you get one, this is so cheesy, but it's so true. I mean, you get one shot at this life, right? And he can't comprehend, you know, doing something that you know deep down you're not supposed to do. And so he was unbelievably supportive and continues to be unbelievably supportive. Yeah, I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we should all have partners like that.
Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah, it makes a difference. It really does.
Huge difference. Yeah, for sure.
I asked earlier if you kind of talked to anyone when you were having the decision about whether or not to continue with school. You guys were already married at that point?
No. We were dating at that point. And he, I talked to him about it as well, but he was more indifferent about it at that point, you know, because it was one of those things where he also believes in following through. Like he believes in commitment. He's the kind of person that commits to something and is going to stay committed to it no matter what it takes. And so it was kind of like he was coming from two different ends. And at that point he was just saying, you know, if you quit, I get it. Like, I know this isn't your thing, but if you stay, I get it. You know, so he wasn't really influencing me in either way. It was just like, I'm supportive of you. Do whatever you need to do. Whereas, you know, with my parents, it was just like, it was different, you know, like they clearly like wanted me to go in one direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so you decide that you're not going to pursue a career in the field that you studied. So then what the heck did you do? Like what?
Great question.
What was like your next immediate thing?
Yeah. And the answer is nothing. I did nothing.
Best answer.
I know. I was like, I did that.
Okay, so that's a lie. I did get certified to teach yoga. I did like a month right after graduation. Yoga has been a passion of mine my entire life. Well, not my entire life, but since end of college. So 7 years.
I could just see like toddler Meredith doing
Yeah.
yoga.
That'll be my kids one day. Toddler Meredith babies will be doing yoga with me, or hopefully, we'll see. So yeah, I got certified to teach yoga. And then right after I finished my certification, we moved to a new city. And in Charlotte, so that, you know, I don't know if it's kind of like this for you, but as soon as you have a big something on your plate, you can find things to do. Like, you can fill up your time, you know? And so I just filled up my time with this move. And then as soon as we were finally settled, I started dabbling in different businesses online. Like, I just started exploring like what I could do to make money online, because I knew that deep down inside, I knew my calling, but there was still this thing where I was like scared to actually do it, scared to put myself out there, right? And so I looked for the next thing that was going to keep that hidden, sort of. And so that looked like I started designing websites for people. I was looking at not supplements, but like a green supplement, like perhaps going and pursuing like a green supplement company. That looked like just little things like that. I just started exploring different things like that. And then finally last Christmas is when I realized this is ridiculous. I know that I'm supposed to be doing something else. And that's when I hired my coach, which is how Tyla and I know each other. Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we'll try so hard to avoid our purpose and calling in the world? You're like, I want to do everything but the thing that I know I'm truly supposed to be doing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it was like I was just filling up my time just doing anything but what I knew I actually needed to do. Like,
right. And you're like, oh, well, it's a little bit closer. It's a little bit closer to my calling.
Baby steps. Yeah, I'm taking baby steps that way. But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how much energy my ego put into that resistance.
Our egos are they are talented.
They are really talented. Really, really talented.
They work overtime.
That is the truth.
Oh boy. So that entire time that you were sort of distracting yourself, how connected did you feel to what your true calling was? Not necessarily in terms of like what you were doing, but like, was it a whisper in the back of your mind that was like, this is not it? Or were you just disconnected from that? You just didn't even know?
No, there was definitely a whisper. There's always been a whisper. And it started to get louder and louder and louder as time went on.
What was it saying?
Ooh, yeah. What was it saying?
So it probably wasn't saying anything, actually. By whisper, what I mean is, like, I don't really hear my intuition as much as I feel it. And so there was just this call back to presence, which is what I do now. I teach presence. And so there was this call back into the present moment over and over and over again. You know, I was practicing that throughout all of this, and it finally was like, okay, you are here to do something with this. You know, like, you are here to be a voice for this. You are not, you know, if I had to put words to it, this is what it was saying, you know, like, you are here to do this. You're here to be present, and you're here to speak for it, you know? Yeah, that's what it was saying, if it had words.
Let's do another little honoring. I think it's amazing that you allowed yourself to listen to yourself as quickly as you did. I mean, I know that it feels like it probably felt like a really long time, but I know from my own experience and from other people that I know, it can take, I mean, a decade.
Yeah.
Even from, I mean, I quit my job, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever that was, 3.5 years ago. And it has taken me this long just to even step into what has truly been calling me the entire time.
Yeah.
And I've been on like the personal growth path that entire time. And I've been strengthening my intuition, and I've been doing all of that, like, quote unquote, work. And still it was so easy for me to just be like, no, I don't, that's not it. that's incorrect.
Well, let me ask you this, Sally. Did you know, like, 3 years ago when you quit your job, like, did you know what it was, like, deep inside that you were being called to do?
I think that I did in hindsight, but I was not aware of it at the time.
Yeah. It wasn't in your awareness.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is that it has been in my awareness that I'm supposed to teach this since 2013, you know? So it has been years, you know? Like, I've been aware of it this entire time. It's just I was scared to death to actually do it, you know? My ego was just too strong. It had too much of a stronghold on my decision making to actually do it until very recently.
What do you feel was it like there was a switch that flipped, or like, was there a specific moment? When was it that you were finally like, oh, I'm going to now trust and follow this thing that I've been scared of and I've been resisting for so long?
It happened so fast. I wasn't even planning to do any of this. Like, I wasn't planning to hire anybody as a coach this year. I wasn't planning to join a mastermind. I wasn't planning to actually do the work that I'm supposed to be doing. I was planning on continuing on this building websites for people. I had already been building sites for a couple of months, and I was making good money doing it. And I thought that I would just grow this business and make money and then pursue little passion projects on the side. So none of this was, like, it wasn't planned. I simply saw a post from Caitlin, our coach, and for some reason, I was just called to apply. So I did. I just knew that I needed to apply, and I got on the phone with her, and I felt like I finally saw a vision for my life that I really wanted to pursue. Like, I wanted to take action in pursuing. And so I hired her. I mean, this happened in probably 48 hours. And then before you know it, you know, I'm actually creating a program that I have had in my heart since, like I said, like, years and years ago. And that was less than a month and a half later, you know? So it all happened so fast. I just trusted. I just trusted my intuition for the first time. Like, I just took steps, and really scary steps at that.
Yeah.
In the way that I was being called. And here I am, you know? So it was almost like it wasn't even conscious. It wasn't like I said, no, I'm actually going to do that this year. I'm actually going to hire a coach this year, and I'm actually going to get a good group of people that are on a similar path, and then I'm going to create this program, and then I'm going to start a one-on-one coaching. But like, I did not plan any of that. It was just like, my conscious mind was thinking, okay, I'm just going to build this website building business on the side, and then maybe pursue passion projects, maybe teach yoga, maybe teach presence just on the side, but really be supported by this other thing, And so it was just, it was crazy. It just happened. I don't know. It was wild.
It's so interesting because I think that's another thing that a lot of us tend to fall into is just like, yeah, I'm going to have this thing that totally supports me, and then I'm going to pursue my real passion in my free time, and it's like, how much free time do any of us actually really have?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Yeah. Word up.
Yeah.
Word to Big Bird, as I used to say.
I've never heard you say that before.
That was pre-Tyla. That used to be my thing.
Word to Big Bird. I like
Let's bring it back.
I think I might. I think that this moment just really made it come back for me.
So, Meredith, you joined this mastermind that we're in together, and then you built a program, and then you had people go through it. Tell us a little bit about what that has been like, because I know it's scary, just to follow your intuition and to sign up for the mastermind in the first place, let alone within 3 months have a program and have people that you are leading through it.
Yeah. It was scary. It was really scary. I had a lot of self-doubt at first. I had a lot of internal dialogue that was saying, who are you to teach this? There are plenty of other teachers. A lot of internal dialogue that was just not very nice. But at the same time, there was just this sense of peace and confidence in that this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is my work in the world, and people are going to get out of it what they're supposed to get out of it. Like, I don't have to control that, right? All I have to do is my work. All I have to do is share a message that has completely changed my life. And it may affect other people in totally different ways, like it may not have the same effect on them that it had on me. And that's okay, because whatever effect that it's having on them is exactly what it's supposed to be on their individual path, right? And who knows, maybe my work is preparing them for something else. Like, there's just no way for me to know that or control that, And so, like, even through all of that self-doubt, there was just this peace and confidence in that I know my message. There was never a doubt in my mind in how powerful the message is. The only doubts were that, am I supposed to be the one that's supposed to, bring it to the world? Like, am I good enough to do that? Does that make sense? Did I totally go off on a tangent? I'm like, I'm thinking about what the question was.
Yeah, no, it's, again, I'm just in awe of you, because I think that taking over responsibility for your clients' results is, it's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
And just in speaking to you in such a short time of trusting yourself and following yourself, you already have such a maturity about the way that you view your work in the world. And that peace and that confidence, which is something that I really see you embody all the time, it's really stunning.
Thank you, Tyla. That means so much.
Word to Big Bird.
Word to Big Bird.
It'll be great when I never say that ever again.
Yeah.
No, it won't. Life will not be as sweet when you stop saying that.
So I have a question. Because we're on a podcast. As if I wouldn't have a question. I don't know why.
Because we are interviewing you.
I don't know why I felt the need to preface that. So, in your day-to-day, I'm wondering if how much that, like, kind of who do you think you are-ness is present. Because you've brought it up a couple of times now already, of that being one of your, I guess growth opportunities, one of the triggers that you are met with. And so I'm wondering how that has evolved, and is it still exactly the same as it was when you first set out on this path, or has it changed? And yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
So for me, that comes up every single time I'm about to up level. Like every single time I'm about to step up to the next big thing, that comes up. Like even like this is the first time I've ever been on a podcast. So today it's like, do you really have anything to share? Is your story really that good? Like that's what the first thing. That's the first thing that just comes up for me every single time. It's just laughable. It's so predictable. And the way that I see it is just that, like I take it very lightheartedly now. It's just like a sign that I'm doing something right. Like if that didn't come up for me, I would be scared. Like I'm totally settling and I'm totally taking an easy route if that didn't come up for me. I think that everybody has their own, thing that comes up every time. Or maybe it's a different thing for everybody. I don't know. But for me, that's what comes up. And that's okay with me. It's just a good sign. Like I don't take it personally. It's just my ego. Like it's my ego. It's the silly little thing that was conditioned to believe that I'm not good enough. Like for some reason, whatever it was within my upbringing. And it blows my mind, honestly, because I had such a supportive family. But somehow I ended up with this core belief within my ego that I'm not good enough. And so I know deep in my bones that is not the truth. Like I know the truth is that I am good enough. I am worthy. I do have something to share. Like I know that. And so, like I said, it's just like it's something that I kind of look at and embrace almost, like, thank you, like, thank you for giving me the sign that I'm doing something right.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting, I really want to ask you something, and I'm not sure that I know how to frame it coherently, so I'm going to try, and we'll see if my question makes any sense. But I want to know a little bit more about how that feeling of I'm not good enough might be tied to that emotion of feeling ashamed that you were feeling a year ago today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. That's so good, Tyler. That's so good. There you go. Bring it back. Yes, for sure. It absolutely is tied. And that's probably been my biggest realization since graduation, is that my ego, the voice in my head is going, like, it's going to change as I evolve, right? Mm-hmm. And so during pharmacy school, it may have said, you got a C on that test. Oh my gosh. Like, will you ever be able to get a job? After I decided that I wanted to quit but didn't, my ego changed. Like the voice changed and said, oh my gosh, you have zero courage. You don't have any conviction in what you actually believe and how you actually want to be in the world, And then today it's like, oh my gosh, you ate Chick-fil-A for lunch. You totally suck, Like it's like, it's just like a total, like it just changes. But the essence of what it's saying is you suck. You're not good enough, right? Mm-hmm. And it just it'll totally shift as you evolve. So if you're, you get into the spiritual community and, you see people who are so down on themselves for feeling anxious or tired or, not totally aligned, or not doing their morning routine, or not doing this or not doing that. And the thing is that's still just the ego. Like, it may sound like it's something that has your back because it wants you to do your morning routine so that you actually have the spiritual growth that you're supposed to have. But really, it's just your ego. It's still your ego just saying, hey, you suck, you didn't do your morning routine.
Yeah.
You know? Like, all of it is just the ego. And so that has been such a huge realization that I finally, like, I probably knew that intellectually back during graduation, but I feel like I really get it in my bones now. Like, I just get it. Like, it's just my ego. No matter what it's trying to say to me, it's still my ego. It may sound like it has my back, but it doesn't, you know? Mm-hmm. It's still trying to create a sense of separation, and it's still trying to make me feel like I'm not good enough.
Yeah. So maybe it's a little easier now to not slip into that space of shame because you're finally able to make that distinction.
Mm. No doubt. So much easier. So much easier. And that's not to say that I don't sometimes experience it now, you know, but I don't try to stifle it, you know, like, there's still shame from, like, things in my past, and there's still shame from things that I even anticipate. Like, I think about, you know, what if this podcast goes terrible? Like, this is just an example. Like, what if this podcast goes terrible and everybody hates me? You know, like, there's like a sense of shame. Like, there's like a sense of shame there. Like, but there's no resistance. Like, I try to feel it as energy in my body and allow it to pass through, rather than be like, oh my gosh, what is this? Why do I still feel this? This shouldn't be something that I'm experiencing. I should be past this. I should have evolved through this by now. Yeah. Like, I'm better than this. I'm teaching people how to not be anxious, you know? Like, it's one of those things where you can either get caught up in the ego, or you can feel the sensation around the emotion and move through it, right? Mm. And so, yeah, I don't want to sound like I don't still feel shame, because I do. Like, that's a human emotion. Like, that's something that most people are very familiar with, but it's something that you don't have to judge. Well, I should have said and it's something that you don't have to judge as bad, you know, like, it's okay to feel that emotion. It's just a human emotion. As long as we can separate ourselves from the experience and witness it as sensation in the body, instead of telling a story around it, instead of trying to create a whole mental drama around it, life becomes so much easier.
You're making me want to sign up for your program.
I know. I'm like, I want all Meredith all the time.
Preach.
Well, I feel like it's been... The only reason why I can even talk about it now is because I have been through the fire, you know, like, I just get it. Like, I have been there in the shame, and I get what it's like to, like, tell all the mental stories, you know, and it's just exhausting, and it hurts, and it just creates a sense of suffering that's just so unnecessary. So unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And, you know, I think we all believe that we experience exactly what it is we require to experience. And I want to know what you feel like you required in that moment where you didn't follow your knowing and quit pharmacy school. I want to know what you think you were requiring to experience or to learn.
Another really good question.
Yeah. You're killing it, Tyler.
Thank you.
Y'all both are killing it. Both of y'all are coming out with really good questions. I required space during that time. So pharmacy school, actually, I required two things. I did a distance program for pharmacy school. So that meant that I did all of my classes online. There was a campus class and then there's a distance class. And the campus students went to class, and the distance students were given a recording and access to, you know, all the professors afterwards. So I did this distance program. That was actually, I did it because of my husband now, he was traveling all over the place for his work, and I didn't want to commit to living in one city for 4 years because he moved 4 times in those 4 years. So I wanted to be able to move with him, or at least go visit him for extended periods of time. So I did this distance program, and I think the only way that I could have ever experienced this sense of, how do I want to phrase it? I talked about tapping into my intuition at the beginning of the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that was experiencing this peace, right? Experiencing the peace of the present moment. Like the only way that I could have ever experienced that peace is if I had all of this time and all of this space during this program. So I had hours and hours and hours alone all the time. And there wasn't the incessant bombarding of like other people's agendas on me. For 4 years, for 3 years I had this. I didn't have people around me who were concerned about grades, who were concerned about the leadership position, who were concerned about residencies and their resumes and the whatever and this and that. I didn't have all of that. And so when you don't have other people's agendas, you can finally tap into who you are underneath it, like who are you underneath the identity that you've kind of built up for everybody around you. Mm-hmm. And pharmacy school gave me that, pharmacy school gave me that space. Now, your question was not about pharmacy school in general. It was that experience after I kept going to school, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where the second thing, comes in. And that was actually practicing all of this in the real world. So your last year of school, you do rotations. And so I worked in 8 different practice settings, doing 8 different kinds of jobs. And, I was working from, 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. some days. And I was working, just a 9 to 5 some days. I was working in office settings. I was working in the hospital. I was working in a pharmacy. So I had all of these different experiences where I really had to practice what I preached with other people, like out in the real world, And so by preaching, I wasn't actually preaching it. I was preaching it to myself for 3 years. But I was just like, I needed that experience. I really did. Because if I would have quit school, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, I probably would have eventually attempted what I'm doing now, but I really wouldn't have had the experience of what it's like to do this out there, And
right, 'cause it's so easy to be like present when you're
by yourself
in your own little space, right?
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
But like then go out into the real world and it's just like,
yes, totally. So yeah, that's what I think I needed to have. I needed to have that experience so that I could relate to what people are going through, and so that I could teach it in a way that people who actually are living in the world, not, like a hermit crab by themselves, all day, every day, in a way that they could understand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love how that shows something that I'm constantly, I guess, preaching and relearning and reminding myself of, just that any decision you make is always the right decision. I think people get really stuck on making the right decision, even when they, or maybe even especially when they start following their intuition. In those moments when you're like, ugh, my gut really told me to do this thing and I didn't do it, and oh my God, how awful am I? But even in that moment when you were like, everything told you to quit and then you still decided to stay, and you're able to see, of course, how that still served you. I just love how that's such a beautiful example of that.
No doubt. That's so good. It reminds me of something that I think it's Tara Moore. I think she talks about this in her book, Playing Big. And she talks about how you can't miss your calling. Like, it's not something that you can just miss. Like, you have a calling in each and every moment, and you can either step towards it or you can step away from it. And if you don't step towards it, you still have the next moment where you can step towards it, you know? And yeah, you're so right. Like, it wasn't the wrong decision. I stepped away from it, but here I am, you know, and it's exactly what was supposed to happen because it happened. You know, like, it's always supposed to be exactly how it is.
I love it.
I do too.
Me too.
Oh boy. So if you could go back to a year ago today and talk to yourself and say something to yourself knowing what you know now, what would it be? What would you say?
I would say first that I'm so proud of her. I would tell her that I'm very, very proud of her and that she is on her path, and she may not understand it, but she's on her path, and that she too is going to be very proud of herself one day.
Oh boy, you just gave me chills.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to get teary. And then I would probably call out her ego as it is, because I think that may give her just a teeny bit of relief, because at that point she just didn't have the awareness to see that it was just her ego, you know. And I think I would say, love, this is just your ego, you know. She's saying something different this time, but it's just your ego, and that it's okay. And just be here with your family, your sweet family. Be here with all of your friends. Yep.
Oh boy. I'm feeling emotional over here.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful.
So, Meredith, if you had to now describe in one word how you feel looking back at a year ago today, what word would you choose?
I have to say proud. I have to say proud. I know I've already told her that I'm proud of her, but that really does just capture exactly how I feel.
Yeah, I think when you're proud of someone or when you're proud of yourself, that is not something that you can possibly say too much.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, thank you, Meredith. This has been amazing.
It has been amazing.
Thank you so much for coming on.
And for being so open.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
I know. You should come back all the time.
All Meredith, all the time.
Now I just need to come up with, like, what happened on that Tuesday?
Exactly. You'll start flooding our inbox. Oh, and then that one time I switched to decaf.
Or that time I was going to go to Chick-fil-A and then I didn't.
I don't know if there ever has been that time, to be quite honest.
Yeah, let's not go crazy. That's a little bit unrealistic.
That's way too evolved for me.
Oh, boy. All right, so Meredith, if any of our listeners would like to find you on the internet, where would they look?
They would look at my website, which is hopefully going to be launched by the time this airs. That is meredithmcelroy.com, MCELROY. And then I am on all of the social medias at Mere McElroy, MERE, MCELROY.
Amazing.
Hooray! Yeah.
Everybody go.
I would love to connect
find
with y'all.
Meredith. Yeah.
Yes.
Sally, where can the people find you online?
The people can find me at Sally Simply on pretty much every social media outlet, and on sallymercedes.com or unmutedexpression.com. Those are my online homes at the moment. Yay!
Yay!
What about you,
And
Ty?
I'm at tylafowler.com, and let's see, I'm on Facebook, Tyla Fowler. I'm on Twitter, Tyla M. Fowler. I don't really use that, but maybe I'll start using Twitter again.
Ooh.
Whoa, we'll see.
plot
I
thickens.
don't know. I just said that out loud without thinking about it. I don't really know how I feel about it, but
Yeah, I
we're gonna
haven't
find
used
out.
Twitter in about a year and a half, so if you start, I might have to start.
Oh
This is going to be
boy!
great.
So pretty soon you can find all of us on Twitter.
You know who else you can find on Twitter is, or I don't know if this is true. No, I think it's true. Zena Hell, who is our lovely intro and outro music, is from Zena Hell, ZYNAHEL, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm pretty sure I didn't make up that she's on Twitter. I think you can find her there. If not, I'll let her know that I've been plugging it.
Maybe she can just make a Twitter.
Exactly. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you love what you hear, you can subscribe on whatever platform you're using to listen to this right now. And what else can they do? That's what they can do.
What we'd really love is if you'd share this podcast with someone else who you think might enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe your bestie.
Maybe your bestie. I'm just going to keep saying that they should share it with their bestie. I mean,
know.
I feel like it's fitting. I don't know.
They're like texting their bestie every week. They're like, have you listened to it yet? Their bestie's like, no, leave me alone.
That's how you and I are. Did you listen to the new I Burn Everything? You didn't?
Just a quick little plug. I love that podcast. So if you're looking for another great podcast, I Burn Everything is totally my choice.
Oh, boy. I mean, that's what you can tweet about. You can just start tweeting about all the podcasts that you love.
All right, we're really getting off track here.
Okay, I know. I'm sorry, guys.
All right, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Peace out.
Bye.